of it in old New York.
I think it's also important to counsel. If I can point to a letter to the editor by now Deputy Mayor Stacy Jordan, she's quoted as saying, "The town council has also taken additional steps to be accessible to our residents and give a voice to the people we are elected to represent." Later in the same letter it says, mentions something about giving taxpayers the attention they deserve. Well, respectfully, just because you say it doesn't mean it's so. Not only is there a lack of transparency, no discussion, feedback, or serious engagement of resident stakeholders in the process, but there is no official record of it either. Minutes. Minutes are available for only 5 of the last 12 council meetings from July onward. Not that there was much to cover in the minutes anyway. We're thankful to the Patch for coverage of this issue, because without Patch, we wouldn't know what council was up to. So transparency is also further called into question when it appears that meeting agendas seem to obfuscate council's intent, referring to solid waste services on tonight's agenda instead of sanitation, a term that we've all referred to when we've talked about this issue. But this isn't unusual, because a couple months ago when we were talking pay to play, the ordinance there was titled "Revising the Limits on Political Contributions" instead of a more aptly described "Increasing the Limits on Political Contributions." Further, tonight's agenda item was placed under consent agenda, where routine matters are passed en masse. As I've said earlier, this is hardly a routine matter. So where does this leave us? In my opinion, and I would argue that for many here, the process is broken. Council has a decision-making process that excludes the very people council was elected to represent. Is this really the best that you can do? It can't be that hard. How hard is it to share information? We're not only your constituents, but we're your neighbors, and quite frankly, we deserve better. So my question to you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourselves on the level of transparency in this issue with the stakeholders, your residents?
Thank you, Mrs. Petriello. The RFP was discussed in a public meeting. I'm sorry you weren't there. There have been several public meetings that are on the dates where we discussed sanitation. Several members of the audience were here. I'm sorry you weren't there.
No, I've been to a lot of these meetings, Mr.
I'm sorry you weren't there. But
my point was,
I'm not going to argue with you. Your chance. I didn't interrupt you, but don't interrupt me. Okay? All right, I let you speak and read your chance statement. I'll add mine. Now, as far as the figures go, we're here discussing it right now. We're at a public meeting discussing it. The doors are open. This meeting, it's being recorded. This is an open public meeting. There's been plenty of transparency. I'm sorry that you missed it, and I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry that, for whatever reason, you've chosen to come and ask me on a scale of 1 to 10. I think it's been a 10. We discussed it. This is a mixed. We have Republicans and Democrats here. The key stakeholders have been involved. We met 3 times, 3 different meetings with the CWA. Lasted for hours to make sure the employees, every single concern they had was addressed. So I apologize if you don't feel there's been transparency. I think there is. I think we're going to disagree on it. But thank you very much for your statement, Mrs. Petriello.
I would like to respond. The discussion that we've had in here has been the result of comments brought forth by the public as part of the public conversation. I have all the agendas here, Mr. Kalka. Would you like to show me where on them we have anything that talks about sanitation outsourcing?
We're going to disagree on the transparency. You asked me a question.
They're right here. If you want it, you can.
Thank you, Mrs. Petriello. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Terrence Smith. My name is Terrence Smith. I live on 151 West Central Avenue. This might be a superficial question, but the personal amenities like having the recycling center open, and the guys that work there, they help out the older people. I got a father-in-law who's a resident of Morristown, and he doesn't get around. And these guys go out of their way. Will we lose that? I mean, just in a personal note that those guys are there, or someone will be there to help out people. And basically, they'll be open on a regular scheduled basis.
I don't know. I'm not sure about the schedule, because we have other issues with that. Not related to residents, but related to contractors dumping things there. So we're trying to work on that.
Okay.
But to answer the question, we're going to do our best to keep it as accessible to
Okay, so I keep it the same, more or less.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
You bet.
All right.
Maura Dye, 570 New Albany Road. And I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate having trash pickup, because I do have a property in another location, it's a rental property where we don't have trash pickup, but we actually have to pay private. I know we obviously pay taxes to cover that, but at this other location, we have to either bring our trash or, again, pay for a private company. So I do appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that I wanted to ask a question first. Are we gonna, you said you're gonna maintain the trucks and keep them for a period of time?
Yes.
So if the services weren't appropriate, we might reinstate?
I suppose you would, yeah, yeah.
Well, otherwise, I just wanted to commend the council for getting, max value and keeping jobs.
Thank you.
I would like to address the idea of the appropriateness or the ability of the service we are going to get to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. And as a matter of fact, I actually have experience on two ends in trash. When I was very young, was the incinerator operator for Burlington County Hospital. And it was a very long title, and a couple of my fellow people didn't like that. I had a lot of trash that I moved by hand. And then when I was somewhat older, I was a person who was in charge of the outsourcing for over 300 sites for a company. None of these things, none of those jobs will be perfect. But we have an adequate staff in Mr. Michelle and Mr. Carew who will go out and make sure that when there is a problem, it will be dealt with, just as they do in every other department. And that's important to understand. It's not going to be perfect, but it is the best thing we can do, I think. And this idea of going forward in this manner is the best thing we can do, considering, as I said before, the seniors and the people that we have that are very value added. It's the continuous improvement that the town needs to do to have the best Morristown going forward.
Thank you, Greg. Now,
Vicki Sewell, 712 Iron Post Road, Morristown. I just wanted to address the recycle center dump, as was just brought up, and make sure I'm speaking as a business person in the township of Morristown, and it is incredibly important that that remain open as it has been, and the help there available to help people, because I deal with a lot of people who are moving, and if we don't have that facility as it is now or close to, we're going to have curbs lined with trash.
we
And I
agree.
just want to make sure you understand our feeling on that.
We do, you're heard, and we're definitely going to work on
If
it.
there's any more conversation needed about this, I'll be happy to bring in the troops. So.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm back. I wanted to bring something up that you folks had an opportunity to say in response, but you didn't. And that's the rules and requirements of what is and is not allowed under the Faulkner Act. Correct?
Correct.
And I'm sure you understand, because you serve on council, that not everything you do can be just that easily publicized and broadcast in a manner that would appease the public, because quite frankly, some of it involves personnel litigation, which is private until such time you come to the decision to make it public, and because everything's being resolved. And the Faulkner Act is very strict about that. So while some people may not feel that you have the transparency you should have, you're not boards of directors of a private company. You're public servants that are bound by the rules and regulations of the Faulkner Act, which I believe is plenty, I'm not sure. But that's important for people to know. And that's why perhaps the transparency that they think they should get, they can't. That, plus the fact that you only meet, 4 times a month, some of them are closed sessions, some of that is open, unless you're in attendance, you can't. People aren't gonna hear it anyway. But the other thing that, does the amount of employees affect the bottom line in terms of savings?
Could you clarify that question?
The amount of employees, whether it's 7 or 11, it's not really impacting the savings that you will realize with regards to the privatization contract, is that correct?
The savings derives from
From that budget.
fewer throughout the entire public works, 7 fewer.
Right. You incur an additional cost as a result of moving employees to another.
Yes, there are 4 jobs being
Okay.
created.
And has that been accounted for?
Yes.
Okay. And that they're the kind of clarifications that people can relate to, because they need to see the bottom line, okay? It was, that's it. I just feel that it's a lot of time, often things are lost in translation. It's very difficult to communicate very, very difficult. And I know you feel pressure because the majority of people in the audience could be for or against something. But there's also a majority in the community, and they're not here. You want to be careful of this if they are. And since they're not, apparently, that the move you're making is in the right path, but quite frankly, because you're saving money without, in my opinion, affecting the loss of jobs, which is very critical. Thank you.
I have one additional question. I've not heard anyone address this area topic. Warren Haskins, 400 Glen Avenue. The question is, what happens with bulk collections?
It'll be continue to be picked up, as is. The only thing that the contract does not secure in terms of the same service that you're getting now is, and Casworth's gonna take several months to mobilize to get started, is if they will need to change the route schedule. So the only thing that would possibly change is your day of pickup. Other than that, what's picked up now will continue to be picked up.
So the reference to $100 a sofa, that's
I don't know about that. but
that's nebulous?
You can put the sofa out if you want. If it's nice, I might take it, but otherwise, I'll take it. There's it.
Your question was, is the sofa still going to be picked up by, just as it is now, by the people who are outsourced as we come? Was that your question, sir?
Yeah. Your reference to
Mr. Carew, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So that's the answer to your question, sir.
Any other members of the public who wish to come to the microphone, come forth and you shall be heard. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting on this one particular ordinance, and I'll open up to the floor of council. Any further discussion on this before we vote on it? Mr. Newcomer?
I would just like to comment that on the November 25th minutes, which is part of all of the minutes that I researched for this, there's a comment or a portion of that. Mayor Jordan advised that the comments will be taken into consideration. He assured Mr. Lance that council will be reviewing all concerns and issues related to outsourcing. That, in my opinion, has been done because we did it in the way that is required, as Mr. Williams said. Thank you, Mr. Williams, very much. By the Faulkner law, which governs how contracts such as this is negotiated. That is a very important point, and some of the discussion tonight is natural concerns, but we should understand that we all need to deal with the law, and we here have to deal with the law. That is a very important point, and we have tried very hard to do that. Mr. Chicago and I have met with Mr. Michelle and Mr. Carew a great deal to find this solution. There were other solutions.
And Mr. Ewers.
And Mr. Ewers, thank you, I forgot that. There were other solutions. This solution saves the people and brings the people whom we know are a valid and great set of workers to positions to add value to the town and reorganize in the sense that any corporation does. That's why it does. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Newcomer. Mayor, anything?
No, I just wanted to reiterate, this council, there's talk about this transparency, and like Mr. Newcomer said and Mr. Williams said, we do as much as we can to get out there. I think Mr. Carew would have loved to have talked to people and told them what was going on contract-wise back in December, but we can't. We're not allowed to talk about those contracts, and that's why we appointed Greg and Chris to do that. And we felt that because we had a DER, they were able to work together for the best interest of the town. So that we couldn't have people saying it was just one party against it. This is not about parties. It's what I think the five of us have been trying to do all year long, which is save our taxpayers' money, yet give them the services that they've come to know and expect. And this contract, like was stated before, there was other options we could have gone with. Quite frankly, we could have done it, and we could have said, you know what, we're not even going to plug those other holes. We're going to deal with what we've had. We've been dealing with it for the past few years. We're just going to keep going. And all five of us on this council were concerned about our employees, and we were concerned about their families, and they're our neighbors. You know, they're good people. And we took, I mean, I've lost sleep over this. I don't know about anybody else. I think I got a few more wrinkles over it because I'm trying to figure out how to get this done. And I think we've come to a solution tonight that enables us to keep our valued employees, to help us out in other areas, maintaining those assets that we want to maintain, but yet saving money. And I know change is difficult, and people don't like change, and it comes hard for some people. But I think we need to move forward, and it's going to be something that, you know, we will reevaluate. And if it's not working, it's not working, and we'll deal with it. And we're keeping our trucks, we're keeping, you know, our resources, and we're keeping our bodies. And if it doesn't work, then we know we can go back to the way it is. But from everything that we've researched, everyone that we've talked to, every company that we've dealt with, it's all led to this place. And this is the best possible solution I think that we can come to by saving jobs, but still saving money. So, you know, I respect everyone's positions. I understand where you're coming from. It's a scary thing to have that change, but I think it's, you know, when you're talking about you're saving those jobs, I don't know how we could do anything different.
Thank you. Mr. Garwood.
Thank you. I've sat here listening to you guys tonight, one by one, come up to the microphone, and it's really unique. I had the exact same questions when we started this process, the exact same concerns. You know, why do we have so many guys here, so many guys here? And Mr. Crew can attest, I've been relentless in my phone calls to him, and, you know, day in and day out asking these questions. And, you know, we've gone through this, and we've asked the same questions. We've looked at it from every possible angle. We've wanted to make sure that nobody was going to get hurt in the process. We want to make sure that taxes are going to stay the same in this process. And, you know, I've lost sleep too. I mean, and just, you know, just wandering about it. And, you know, I think we're doing the right thing. And I think less said the better right now because it's all been said.
Mrs. Napolitano, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Is everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Do you have anything to add?
You have anything to add?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, we heard from a lot of people tonight on both sides of the issues. And, you know, what I want to say is that I think everyone who spoke tonight and everyone on council and all of our township employees have one common thing, which is that we all care about the quality of life in our town. And we may disagree about the means of how to preserve that, but I hope we can at least acknowledge that we're really all on the same side in terms of wanting the best for our town and for the people in our town. And, you know, on the table today is the question of the quality of our sanitation, the quality of our Department of Public Works, and the cost of living in our town. And the plan that we have devised and that we're going with, the way I look at it, we are maintaining the quality of our sanitation. We are improving the quality of our Department of Public Works by making sure that it's better staffed. And we're going to
Nobody likes change. I don't either. And, you know, but, you know, we don't have options here any longer. That said, regarding the transparency issue, you know, you're here at the meeting. Here we are. It's being discussed. I don't know what else more we could have done for you, but I hope you understand. But we have a decision to make as far as the employees go. We worked hard to you know, bridge the gap and retain the employees while maintaining our service, and that's important. And I don't think that can be overlooked. But I do appreciate everybody coming to be part of the discussion, whether you agree with it or not, whether you point your finger at us, whatever. It's still important that you're here, and that's what our government is about. And I do thank you for that. That said, I'll entertain a motion to award the contract to Cowsworth Enterprises, Resolution 6420-14.
So moved. Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Bill was first, Bill, and then Greg. And Patty, roll call?
Mr. Garwood?
Yes.
Mr. Newcomer?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Napolitano?
Yes.
Pacquiao?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, we actually have other things to do tonight.